We do top 10 based on, and if you're pulling up on TikTok, thanks for pulling up. YouTube links in the bio if you want to pull up and see the full stream, like with the YouTube. We do a tier list. You can see it's a better visual on if you pull up to the YouTube, links in bio. Shameless plug. So today we're doing a tier list, top 10 power forwards based on last year's regular season performances. We do this every year, right? First couple of weeks, the last couple of weeks of the all season, we do this every year. Each week we do a different position. So far we've done point guards, we've done shooting guards, small forwards, and this week we're doing power forwards. Next week we're going to finish it off with centers, and we'll also probably be, the center one might go quick, but it's also the one I'm the most excited about. So we'll see how fast I get through it, because centers are my favorite position to watch. Like, I really think centers are just really important. We'll talk about more center stuff later. But they're one of my favorite positions to watch. Now I'm thinking about it historically. Some of my favorite players have always been centers, like just favorite players in the league during the time when I'm watching hoop. My favorite players are almost always centers. All that being said, we're not doing centers this week. We're doing power forward. I got to come clean, I guess, a little bit about these lists. So usually when I do these lists, I try to go into it, like I do it over the course of 5 weeks, obviously. So like a month and some change of each week, we're doing a different position. I try to, going into this, have a general idea of where I'm going to place players in terms of position, because people get real bent out of shape if you put a guy in a position that they don't think he belongs in. People get real bent out of shape about it. And so I did the point guard list. I felt pretty confident about that. I did a shooting guard list. It got real controversial there because I had SGA as a shooting guard and not a point guard. A lot of people were like, whoa. And, I said, Giddey's the point, SGA's the two. Not too many people were mad at that. And then around the shooting guard, small forward, when I got to the small forward list and finished the list and I'm done the stream, I realized I made a mistake. And so a lot of people are going to be mad at me this week, because when I did the small forward list, I realized I should have probably put Paul George on the shooting guard list, not the small forward list, because now that means Kawhi is on my power forward list. Now, granted, Kawhi did play a decent amount of minutes of power forward this season. He did play a decent amount of minutes of power forward this season. However, admittedly, I'll take this one. He did play more minutes at the small forward than he did at the power forward. So when you see the list and you see Kawhi on there, you're going to hate me for it. It's cool. Like, it really is cool. But I'm telling you now, Kawhi is on the power forward list solely off the strength of, I messed up. I'll take that. I'll take that one. I messed up. I'll take that one. So let's go ahead and get into this. Let me pull it up right here so y'all can see what we got here, what the rest of the pool of players is looking like. We got our tier list right here. Same as always. We're ranking 1 through 10. We're going to start at number 10 as we usually do. Typically in most other weeks, I've had some honorable mentions. I didn't get a chance to add any honorable mentions here, but some of the guys off the top of my head that I thought about but didn't make it, like Jeremy Grant popped up in my mind. I guess that was the main one that like popped up in my head, but I didn't have him on here. I didn't have too many honorable mentions. I ain't gonna lie. As for the power forward position, in my top of my head, I did not have too many honorable mentions. The main one was Jeremy Grant. He just didn't make it. So we're gonna start at number 10. We usually start bottom up. The bottom half of this, to me, is always more fun than the top half. So far, honestly, in each one of these rankings, outside of maybe, I think the shooting guard, there might have been a little more wiggle room. The point guard might have been some wiggle room around that 2-3 slot. But for the most part, the top 4 have been pretty solidified for all these positions so far in my mind. I haven't really thought too much about the centers yet, so we'll see if that trend carries on for the centers. But one thing I've noticed, at least for myself, when it comes to ranking players, that 10 through 6 is the most fun for me, because it's where a lot of these players, what they bring in terms of the level of value is similar. They just bring different things to their team. But the level of impact, I would say, is similar across the board, or especially like 7 through 10. Those bottom 4 guys, they might just do it a little differently, but the impact level is similar. So at number 10, this is where I have Draymond Green. And I'll be honest, Draymond Green at number 10 felt low for me going into this. He's someone who over the last couple of years, he's been, honestly, probably, I think last year, he might have been at least at around 5, 6. Years before that, he might have been top 5, top 4. He's dropped down. He's definitely dropped down over the years, and it's been a different look for him compared to what we're used to seeing in terms of just the value that he brings on the court. And while no, his offensive game ain't what it used to be, he's not the stretch shooter that he's used to being, that he made the name for himself back in like that 2015, 2016, 2017 run. But he's still, I can't understate this enough, Draymond Green is still incredibly talented defensively. He's still incredibly talented defensively. He was 4th this year in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He was excellent for the Warriors in the playoffs on the defensive side of the ball. We saw him play really good defense against Sabonis. Granted, it was an injured Sabonis. His hand was jacked up, but still great defense against Sabonis. And for the most part, outside of like maybe Jokic and Embiid, he can still guard most fives in the league, but he also has the ability, and once again, we saw this in the playoffs. If it's a pick and roll situation, a dribble handoff situation, he can keep up with guards. Like in a pick and roll, he can be okay and handle himself on the perimeter. We saw that on the playoffs against that King series. He was solid against the Aaron Fox at times. Once again, Fox was also, well, no, that was Ja that I'm thinking of that had an injured hand in the playoffs. Draymond's still elite defensively. Offensively, I think he's regressed a lot. That's why I have him at 10. But defensively, he's elite. On the offensive side of the ball, outside of like a DHO, dribble handoff with Steph Curry, he ain't doing much. But shout out to Draymond at 10. At number 9 is where I have Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley at number 9 for me, amazing defender. A lot of the guys on here you're going to see was high in Defensive Player of the Year voting because, or was the Depoy. We'll get to Jaren Jackson in a second. Evan Mobley was 3rd in Depoy voting. Like also another elite rim protector. Great defensively. Solid on the offensive side of the ball, if that means just finishing around the rim. One of the things that I think held him back this year and held the Cavaliers back this year was it makes sense that on paper you want Evan Mobley to do more on the offensive side of the ball in terms of shooting ability, scoring from the perimeter, putting the ball on the floor in the perimeter. That's not his game yet, if we're being completely honest. I wouldn't be surprised that's not necessarily we're talking about this ranking, but I wouldn't be surprised if moving forward in the next year or two, maybe even sooner than that, if the Cavs at least think about or entertain the idea of moving off of Jared Allen and moving Evan Mobley to the full-time 5 spot. I think he can play full-time 5. And if he doesn't develop a perimeter game, they either need to A, get a center who has a perimeter game and can stretch the floor a little bit, or B, just let Evan Mobley play more 5 ball, more of the 5 and move on from Jared Allen. Because the Twin Tower thing is beautiful defensively, especially considering when you have Garland and Mitchell on your perimeter and not great, perimeter defenders. Having those two guys as your backups defending the rim is amazing. But offensively, it just clogs up some spacing. But he was great. Evan Mobley's great in the pick and roll. He has a really good touch around the basket. Defensively, is absolutely phenomenal. Evan Mobley at number 9. At number 8 is where I have probably my, I'll say this. Oddly enough, is my most favorite guy to watch on here. That's not a superstar. That's Aaron Gordon. At number 8, I have Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon, to me, is the perfect piece to put next to Nikola Jokic. If you're going to have any power forward in the league to be around Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon is absolutely perfect for it. I've been stressing this all season long. The year that he had basically by himself next to Jokic when Jokic won his 2nd MVP and Jamal Murray and MPJ were out pretty much the entire season, Aaron Gordon really got to learn, in my mind, what it's like to play with Jokic, where Jokic likes to be, where it's best for him to be, where to cut off the ball. And we saw that this year to an even better degree. He's an excellent cutter. He's solid on the catch and shoot. Like if you leave him open, he's going to shoot it. He's going to take those shots. We saw him torch some teams by left him open in the playoffs. We also saw him when a team tried to go small on him and put a guard on him or a small forward or whatever, bullied him in the paint. He's very versatile. He can do a lot. He was 34% on 2.5 attempts from 3 this year. Like the catch and shoot game was there. That's league average on a couple of attempts. That's solid spacing from Aaron Gordon. And also the other thing that I like about him so much is his ability to be, honestly, probably like their point of attack defender. If the Nuggets are going up against a bigger wing or a bigger guard, perimeter, or even an inside guy, Aaron Gordon takes those defensive assignments for them night after night after night. And no, I'm not saying he's the best defender in the league. And honestly, he wasn't even really in the running for Defensive Player of the Year voting. Probably wasn't even running for all defensive team. But he's a solid defender, and he embraced that role for this Nuggets team so well that it's not a glaring issue that they don't have someone who you would consider a defensive stopper on that team. Because one, they do still play solid team defense, and Aaron Gordon takes on those defensive assignments night after night. Slim, I agree. Cavs getting the stretch and letting Mobley run the center would be huge. I want them to do that so bad. So that's Aaron Gordon at number 8. At number 7, I wanted to put this guy higher. I really, really wanted to put this guy higher. At number 7 is where I have Jaren Jackson Jr. And if you feel that that's too low, I ain't even gonna hate on you for feeling that way. I'm not gonna be mad at you for feeling that way. It's where I'll explain why he's here where I have him when we get to the other guys. I just think some of the other guys bring a little bit better players. I'll be honest. Jaren Jackson Jr., great rim protector. We all know this. Defensive Player of the Year this past season. Excellent rim protector. And honestly, to me, this was so far in his career, he had his career best season so far, which is what you want to see from a guy who's still developing, still getting better, still entering his prime. Defensive Player of the Year this year. 35% from three on 4.5 attempts a game was a really good floor spacer for Ja Morant to open up some of those driving lanes, especially considering this team is one of those teams that, although he went down and only played, I want to say 40 something or 30 something games. I think he played 41 games. I don't know why I remember that exactly, but Steven Adams is on the floor a lot for the Memphis Grizzlies. He's their 5. He's their rebounder. A lot of people get on Jaren Jackson, especially in the FIBA stuff, about him not being a great rebounder. Well, that's not his role on this team. But that shooting 34% on, 35% and almost 5 attempts a game allows him for some more spacing, even with Steven Adams on the floor. He has ability to put the ball on the floor, the perimeter, to get past slower bigs. He has a nice game. He has a really, really nice game. I'm looking forward to see him develop that offensive game a little bit more. Just stay consistent with that 3 ball. I don't even really need him or want him to improve it that much. I just want him to stay consistent with it. And then on the flip side, the only thing I want Jaren Jackson Jr. to get better at is not getting in foul trouble so much, not continuing to stay in foul trouble, because he's a great player when he's on the court. He helps his team's defense and offense so much. He's depending on who you're talking to, he's the Memphis Grizzlies' second, third best player, depending between him and Desmond Bane right now. I would obviously lean towards him, but I know some people really like Bane. The only thing holding him back is that foul trouble. He has to find a way to stay out of foul trouble. He simply has. Still excellent player. Like, don't get it twisted. Still an excellent player. At number 6, now this section between Jaren Jackson, so number 7 to like number 4, the order is honestly, in my mind, can go a lot of different ways and really just depends on what you value. But we'll see. Depends on what you value, but we'll see. At number 6, this is where I personally have Julius Randle. I think Julius Randle, to me, had a really, really good season. He was an all-star this year, 3rd-team All-NBA, put up 25 and 10, 4 assists on, which is mind-boggling to me. And it makes sense when you think about watching Julius Randle, but when you see it on paper, I didn't realize he took 8 attempts from 3 a game on league average shooting, only 34%, but league average at 8 attempts a game. I don't always love Julius Randle when I watch him, right? We all know him as the body language guy. If he's not playing well, you're going to know he's not playing well just by looking at him, because he ain't going to necessarily look engaged to the game. But the shots he put up be going in. Like, that's all. I don't have any better way to say it, but that other than the shots he puts up goes in. He's a guy who really can score at all 3 levels. The 3-point shot is there. The mid-range game be there. The inside paint game be there. I wish he was a little bit better defensively, but that's not what this team is asking him to do. So I'm not tripping over it, to be completely honest with you. But he's good. It might not. I literally have right down. It might not look great, but he gets buckets, and I love that for him. Like, he's coming to the point. I think this year was one of those years for him. So he had the All-NBA, where he was All-NBA's 2nd team, and the year he won Most Improved Player. It was 2 years ago, I want to say. Then he had a down year last year, the 2021-2022 season was, I would say, for a lot of people, it's considered a little bit of a down year, coming off the year that the Knicks had that deep playoff run, coming off the year that he got the MIP and All-Star appearance. And then last year he had a down year, but this year, I think it was a really good bounce back for him. I think he came into his own. He just looked more confident on the court. Once again, it don't always look pretty, but the shots go in, and the confidence was there. The confidence was definitely apparent. Slim, I agree with you. Randle's improvement since coming into the league has been insane, always improving. I agree with you there. I agree. At number 5, whereas I have this year's reigning most improved player, Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen had a really, really great year. Lauri Markkanen, I'll be honest, surprised the heck out of me this season, because going into this, I don't want to say I didn't know what to expect from him, but I didn't know what to expect from him. I knew he was talented. I knew he was good. I knew he had potential, but how they were using him on that Cavaliers team for most of his career, or between the Cavaliers and the Bulls, how they were using him wasn't like how the Jazz used him, how the Jazz unlocked him and let him really have the ball in his hands more and really flourish, have some spacing around him. He had a really, really great season. 40% from 3 on 7 attempts a game. Offensive versatility was really there. Super efficient, which is impressive considering, like, he was crazy efficient. I want to say if he wasn't 50, 40, 90, he was just he was very efficient this season, which was impressive to me considering he's the first option on the team that doesn't have a ton of offensive weapons. So the defense was honed in on him, and he still was able to play very well for the Jazz this. And rounding it out at number 4. Number 4 is where I have Pascal Siakam. Pascal and the Raptors, I'll be honest, the latter half of this season, I didn't see a ton of Pascal. I was locked into the Raptors at the beginning of the season. It started to slip, go a little left for them. I watched the Raptors less and less. At one point, it was like, okay, winner, either OG or Fred or even Pascal at times, were going to get traded. So I wasn't tapped in as much as I would have liked to the Toronto Raptors. All that being said, I'm still well aware how good of a player Pascal Siakam was last year. 25 points, 25, 7, and 5. The defensive versatility was there. The his skill set allows the Raptors to run a lot of different lineups with their personnel. There were times Pascal could play anything from the 3 to the 5. Now, obviously, he primarily plays the 4, but that defensive versatility that he brings to the Raptors allows them to do a lot of different things. He's still their go-to option in terms of scoring. He's the number one. He's the number one scoring option. His playmaking has been consistent, I'll say, over the last couple of seasons. He's able to drive and find open guys in the corner, use his size, use his length. The spin move is still deadly, of course, but Pascal had a really good season. Number 3, we talked about this. This is where it was going to be a little controversial. This is where y'all was going to maybe not fully love the list. And number 3 is where I have Kawhi Leonard. Now you can say Kawhi not a power forward. You can say Hawk, you fumbled. Kawhi should have been on a small forward list. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but we're here now. So Kawhi is number 3 on my power forward list. Low key, he almost ain't made my cut. Kawhi was at 49, 48 or 50 games. I didn't write it down. I was looking because I wasn't even sure if he was going to make my list. I usually cut it off at, you got to play 42 games. You got to play half the season. He played just over half the season. And when he's on the court, he's still Kawhi Leonard. Like when he was on the court, he was still Kawhi. I don't even know who you would say is the best two-way guy in the league other than Kawhi. When he's locked in defensively, it's still there. That mid-range game of his is impeccable. All of his game is just impeccable. He can shoot the 3. He can shoot from mid. He can get to the basket. He can do a lot. Like, he really, really can do a lot. Should he be on this list at the power forwards? Probably not. But we not tripping. We really, really not tripping over it. So, yeah, we got Kawhi at 3. If you tripping over it, I'm not tripping. You know what I mean? So, before you even type the comment saying Kawhi is a small forward, this list is trash. Kawhi is a small forward. I ain't mad at you. But he did play time at power forward. So, he on my list at 3. I had him fit him somewhere. At number 2, this is where I went back and forth for this. Well, I'll be honest. I didn't really go that much back and forth. At number 2 is where I have Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is one of my favorite guys in the league. Of just watching his game, his scoring ability is pure. 56, he shot 56 from the mid-range this year. This dude's in the league that don't shoot 56% at the rim. His mid-range game was absolutely unstoppable. Can shoot the long 3 ball. He had a great season for the Brooklyn Nets. They asked for the trade. He had that team in playoff contention for most of the season. So much so that even after his trade, him and Kyrie get traded away, he had them at such a high seed that even once they started losing and sliding down in some standings, they still stayed in playoff contention for a while. And then he joins the Brooklyn Nets. Then he joined the Phoenix Suns. And I want to say at one point, I know he was in and out of the lineup due to injury when he got there, but his first 9 games, they went undefeated when he played. So he had a great season. He really did have a great season. And then at number 1, I got Giannis. Listen, best power forward in basketball, in my opinion. At worst, he's the second best player in the league, depending on who you got between him and Jokic. Excellent player. Two-way phenom, dominant inside the paint. I feel like Giannis catfished me over the last couple of seasons. I ain't gonna hold you. He was starting to develop, and he still shoot it, but he was starting to develop that mid-range pull-up, that mid-range fade, starting to lean into that mid-range bag a little bit more. I went and looked at someone, I really wanted to see what his shot charts was looking like this season. I wanted to see what his mid-range game was looking like this season. The numbers ain't pretty at all. Like what Giannis shoots from mid-range. So that's what I say. I feel like he catfished me because when I tune into Bucks games, I'll see him do it a couple times and I'm like, all right, he developed that mid-range bag. But when you look at what he shot from that mid-range over the course of the season, it's really not there still. But I think he shoots it to keep the defense honest. And honestly, if the defense hesitates for a second to want to guard either his three-point shot pull-up or a mid-range pull-up, he has the speed, athleticism, and the strength to get to the basket. Averaged 31 and 11 this season, 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year. Giannis is undoubtedly the best power forward in the league in my opinion. I don't know why Laurie over JJJ not sitting right with me. It's funny. So I said Sleazy and Julius. Oh God, I think everyone here better than Julius Randle. That's that Celtics fan of you talking. That's all that is. That ain't nothing but the Celtics fan of you talking. I'm gonna tell you that right there. I will say this. I said this when I started with Jaren Jackson Jr. at number 7. The first thing I said was 7 through 4 was going to be controversial. It really depends on what you value and what you liked about these guys. For me, Julius Randle is here over JJJ because as much as I love what Jaren Jackson Jr. brings defensively, the shooting is kind of there in terms of spacing the floor. That foul trouble and not being able to stay on the floor at times, it hurt him a little bit for me. Julius Randle had an absolutely phenomenal season in my mind. All NBA, can score at all levels of basket. all levels of the court. I said it looks ugly, but he gets buckets. Lauri Markkanen is probably, after like maybe Kawhi and KD, this might sound crazy, Lauri Markkanen is the most skilled guy on here after Kawhi and KD. Like in terms of the skill and scoring ability, in terms of scoring the ball efficiently, Lauri is him. I think that might be the most controversial picks, 5 and 6 of Lauri and Julius, but it is what it is. So my top 10 power forwards based on the 2022-2023 regular season are Giannis, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, even though, you know what I mean, Pascal Siakam, Lauri Markkanen, Julius Randle, Jaren Jackson Jr., Aaron Gordon, Evan Mobley, and Draymond Green. And if you're tripping over the Kawhi pick, like I said earlier, he was probably supposed to be on a small forward list, but he did play some time at power forward. So before you go crazy, it is what it is. The Julius Randle, Lauri Markkanen over JJJ, that trio, if you mix them around, I'm not mad at it. This is just the order that I like. And if I could have put Aaron Gordon higher, trust me, I would have. Like, that's how impactful he is to the Nuggets to me.